The night sky above the colony town of Velen was quiet and full of stars. Most people were asleep. The wind moved gently, and machines hummed in the distance. Rafi, a young mechanic, was still working in his small workshop. His hands were covered in grease, and the light from his lamp made his tools shine. He liked working late when everything around him was silent. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the peace. A bright flash shot across the sky like lightning. It crashed somewhere beyond the hill behind the town. The ground shook a little. Rafi stood up quickly, his heart beating faster. It did not sound like a meteor. It sounded like something metal, something built out without wasting time. He grabbed his flashlight and jumped onto his small hover bike. The wheels lifted off the ground, and he sped toward the crash site. As he got closer, he saw smoke rising in the distance. Trees were bent and burnt. The smell of fire filled the air. When he reached the place, he stopped and looked carefully. There was a small silver pod, half buried in the ground. Steam hissed out from its broken side. It was not from Earth. Rafi had seen many old ships and tech, but this one was different. The edges were smooth. The lights were still blinking, but weak. He stepped closer and saw that the door had popped open. Inside the pod, someone was moving. Slowly, a girl, maybe around his age, was lying there. Her clothes were torn, her face pale, and her arm had a deep cut. She looked weak, as if she had not eaten for days. Rafi climbed in carefully and held her head up. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked gently. She opened her eyes just a little and nodded. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Rafi didn't wait. He lifted her out of the pod, placed her on the back of his bike, and sped back to town. In his workshop, he laid her down on a small bed in the back room. He cleaned the cut on her arm and wrapped it with cloth. He brought water and helped her drink. She looked at him with tired eyes, like she was trying to figure out if he was a threat. Rafi just smiled and gave her a blanket. "You're safe here," he said. She didn't speak for a while. She just rested, breathing slowly. After some time, her voice came out, soft but clear. "My name is Mira." Rafi sat on a stool beside her. "I'm Rafi. You're lucky I found you. That crash didn't look good." She closed her eyes again. "Thank you." Rafi stayed by her side. Most of the night, he didn't ask many questions. He didn't even tell the town guards. Something inside told him that she needed help, not more trouble. The stars outside kept shining, and inside the workshop, the sound of her breathing was steady. The next morning, Mira sat up. She was still weak, but her eyes were sharper. She looked around the room, then at Rafi. "Why did you help me?" Rafi shrugged. "Because you needed it. That's what we do here." Mira didn't smile. Her face stayed serious. She looked down at her hands, then at the bandage on her arm. Then she said something strange. "If you knew who I was, you would have run." Rafi blinked. Her voice had changed a little. It was still soft, but something in it felt cold. Not angry, not evil, but heavy, like she carried a big secret. "Maybe," Rafi said, "but you were hurt. And I don't run from people who need help." Mira looked at him again. For a moment, something passed between them. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But part of her was still holding back. She tried to stand, and Rafi quickly helped her. She moved slowly to the door and looked outside. The sun was rising, and the colony was waking up. People were starting their machines, preparing for another day. "Where are we?" she asked. "This is Velen, a small colony. We don't have much, but it's home." Rafi said. Myra nodded. Her eyes scanned the horizon like she was checking for something. Then she stepped back and sat down again. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. Rafi looked at her. "Do you want to leave?" She shook her head. "I want to stay, just for a while." "If that's okay," Rafi smiled. "You can stay as long as you want." Myra didn't thank him this time. She just sat there, quiet and thoughtful. Rafi went back to fixing a broken drone nearby, but he kept glancing at her. There was something different about her. The way she spoke, the way she looked at machines. She was not just a lost traveler. As the day passed, Mira helped a little around the workshop. She didn't talk much, but she watched closely. She seemed to understand tools without needing to be told. At one point, Rafi saw her fix a small part. using only a wire and two metal clips. It should not have worked, but it did. You're good with machines, Rafi said. Myra looked at him. It's what I was made for, he laughed, thinking she was joking. But her face stayed serious, and then he realized she meant it. That night, after dinner, Myra sat by the window, staring at the sky. Rafi handed her a warm drink and sat beside her. She pointed at a star in the distance. I came from near that one, she said. Very far from here, Rafi nodded. And are you going back? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, they might come looking. I hope they don't, but if they do, things might go bad. Rafi leaned back and crossed his arms. Well, whatever happens, you're not alone anymore. Myra looked at him, really looked at him this time. For the first time, she smiled, a small one, but real, but deep. Inside, she knew it was only the beginning. Asterisk. The sun rose again over Velen, painting the sky in soft orange and blue. People in the colony began their day like always. Machines started humming. Cars moved across the dusty roads and voices filled the air. But inside Rafi's workshop, things were different. Myra had slept through most of the night, but now she stood by the workbench, quiet and focused. Rafi watched from behind as she examined one of his broken tools. It was a small welder he had tried to fix many times. Without asking, Myra picked up a thin wire, pulled out the battery cell, and touched 2 points together. The welder lit up, fully working. Rafi raised his eyebrows. That thing hasn't worked in months. How did you do that? Myra handed the welder back without answering. She looked calm but distant. You always fix things like that, Rafi. Myra replied softly. I know machines. They speak to me in a way. I can feel how they're made. Rafi leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. You're not just any traveler, are you? She gave a short smile, but it faded quickly. No, I'm not. He wanted to ask more, but something in her eyes stopped him. It wasn't fear, it was pain. Later that day, Myra walked with Rafi through the colony. People looked at her with curious eyes. No one knew where she had come from, and Rafi hadn't told anyone about the crash pod. He had hidden it under metal sheets and parts. They reached the market area. Stalls were open, and children ran between carts. Rafi bought 2 fruit pies and gave one to Myra. She took it slowly and looked at the crowd. They look happy, she said. They are, Rafi replied. We don't have much, but we have peace. Myra nodded. Then she noticed something across the street. 3 rough-looking men stood near a fence, watching her closely. One of them pointed at her arm. Myra quickly pulled her sleeve down, covering a small symbol on her skin. What's wrong, Rafi? Myra whispered. We should go. They turned back toward the workshop, walking faster. The men didn't follow, but Myra kept looking behind. Once they reached the workshop, Myra sat down and held her head. Her hands were shaking. Rafi placed a cup of water beside her. Who were they? She didn't answer for a while. Then she pulled up her sleeve and showed the mark. It was a circle made of lines and strange shapes. It glowed faintly like it had a life of its own. This is a control mark, Myra said. It was used to track me. Anyone trained to read it will know who I am. Rafi sat across from her, serious now. And who are you? Myra looked down. I was made to be a tool, a part of something big. I was not born like you. I was built in a lab on a station far away. There were others like me. We were trained to carry out missions. We were sent to places that needed to be changed. Rafi asked quietly. Myra nodded. Destroyed, taken over, erased. Rafi's heart sank. He tried to stay calm. And you ran from them. I did, she said. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. A planet with people like yours, families, children. They were scared. I couldn't finish the mission, so I escaped. Rafi leaned forward. You're not one of them anymore. You made a choice. That matters. Myra smiled a little, but sadness still filled her eyes. That's not how they think. To them, I'm broken, and broken tools get thrown away. Silence sat between them for a while. The hum of machines filled the air. Later that evening, Rafi worked on a water filter while Myra sat beside him, handing tools. He tried to act normal, even though her story echoed in his mind. He had helped many people in his life, but never someone like her. After a while, he asked, "Are they looking for you now?" Mira nodded. "They always are. But if those men from earlier recognize the mark, it means they've already sent a signal." Rafi stood up. "Then we'll hide you. We'll block the signal. I'll cover your mark with a shield band. You'll be safe here." Mira looked at him, unsure. "Why do you trust me?" "Rafi, you don't even know me." He looked her in the eyes. "I know enough. You're not hurting people. You're trying to be better. That's what matters here for." The first time, Mira's face softened. She wasn't used to kindness in the place she came from. Kindness was weakness. But here, it felt like a warm fire in winter. That night, as they sat outside the workshop, Rafi told her about the colony, how his parents had helped build it, how everyone worked together to survive. Mira listened, quiet but curious. It was a different world for her, a peaceful one. But inside her heart, fear still lived. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the people she had escaped from were still watching, still searching. She wondered how long it would be before they came again, and if they did come, would Rafi still stand beside her? Would this quiet place still accept her? She didn't know. But she hoped. The days in Velen passed slowly. The colony stayed busy with work, trade, and small repairs. To most people, everything seemed normal. But inside Rafi's workshop, something had changed. Mira was no longer just a guest. She had become part of Rafi's world. Mira fixed things faster than anyone Rafi had ever seen. She improved the water purifier using old wires and parts. She helped build a new battery pack for the power station. People started to notice her skills. Some even came to thank her, but Mira stayed quiet, always avoiding attention. She wore a cloth around her wrist to hide the glowing mark on her arm. One morning, Rafi and Mira went to the far side of the colony. A broken satellite dish near the edge of town needed repair. Rafi brought his toolkit, and Mira carried a small scanner. The sky was clear, and the wind was soft. Birds flew across the wide plain. As they reached the old tower, Mira looked around carefully. To open, she whispered. Rafi glanced at her. "You still feel someone might come?" She nodded. They never stopped watching. Rafi smiled. "Well, let's just finish the work. Then we go back for pie." Mira smiled back, just a little. She climbed the tower with ease. Her fingers moved quickly over the wires and panels. Rafi stayed below, handing her tools and checking the readings on a small screen. After 20 minutes, the dish turned slowly. The signal light turned green. "It's working," Rafi said. "You did it." Mira climbed down, dusting her hands. But just as they started walking back, a group of scavengers arrived on old bikes. There were 5 of them, wearing worn-out armor and dirty helmets. They stopped near the tower and looked at Mira. One of them, a tall man with a scar on his cheek, pointed at her. "You, take off that cloth." Mira froze. Rafi stepped in front of her. "She's with me. We don't want trouble." The man laughed. "Trouble walks with her. That mark on her arm. I've seen it before. You know what she is." Rafi stayed calm. "She's not what you think. She's helping us." Another scavenger spoke. "That mark belongs to a destroyer unit. One of the feared ones. I heard stories. They don't come to help. They come to erase everything." Mira pulled the cloth tight around her arm, but it was too late. The scarred man stepped back. "We're leaving. But if you keep her here, others will come. Worse than us." They sped away, leaving dust behind them. Mira stood still, her eyes on the ground. "They know now," she said. "They'll tell others. It has begun." Rafi took her hand. "We'll be ready. I'm not letting you go." Back at the workshop, the air felt heavier. Rafi checked the shield band he had made for Mira's arm. It worked for small scans, but it wouldn't stop the deep trackers from other worlds. Mira sat near the window, watching the street. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I just wanted a quiet place. A new start." Rafi knelt beside her. "You still have that. We just have to be careful now." Mira nodded, but her heart was full of worry. She remembered her training, the dark halls of the place she escaped, and the cold voices of her handlers. She was one of the last of her kind. Most others had followed orders. Only she had run. That night, Mira had a dream. She stood on a burning field, machines flying above her, and people screaming. She tried to stop the fire, but her hands created more flames. Then she saw Rafi reaching out, calling her name, but she couldn't move. She woke up sweating. She went outside and looked up at the stars. A strange light moved across the sky. It was too fast for a normal ship. Mira's eyes followed it until it vanished. The next morning, the town chief came to visit Rafi's workshop. His name was Dalen, an old man with wise eyes and a strong voice. "I heard something from the outer hills," Dalen said. "A few scavengers came through. They said something about a danger. Something about a girl with a mark." Rafi looked at Mira. She stepped forward slowly. "It's true," she said, "but I'm not here to harm anyone. I only want to stay in peace." Dalen looked at her closely. "You don't seem like the stories I've heard." But stories spread fast. "I need to know, should we be worried?" Mira took a deep breath. "If they come for me, they won't care about the colony. They'll burn everything. That's how they work." Dalen stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We protect our own here. If you stand with us, we'll stand with you." After he left, Mira turned to Rafi. "He's brave, but he doesn't know what's coming. Then help us prepare." Rafi said, "You know their systems. You know their weakness." Mira hesitated. She had promised herself never to use the knowledge again, but now she had no choice. She opened the small bag she had hidden. Since the crash, inside was a glowing cube full of light and moving lines. Rafi stared at it. "What is that?" "It's a command cube," Mira said. "It links to hidden tech, weapons, and satellites. I took it when I escaped. I thought I'd throw it away, but something told me to keep it." "Can it help us?" Mira nodded. "Yes, but if I use it, they'll detect it. They'll know I'm alive." Rafi looked into her eyes. "We'll face that when it comes. But right now, we protect Velen." Mira held the cube in her hands. Her face was calm, but her eyes were sharp now. The time to hide had ended. The time to fight had begun, and for the first time since her escape, Mira felt ready to stand. The air in Velen changed. People could not see it, but they could feel it. A strange silence spread through the colony. It was not fear, not yet, but something close to it. Ever since the scavengers had spoken about Mira, a shadow had fallen over the town. Rafi tried to keep things normal. He still worked in the workshop, still laughed when tools dropped, still fixed broken drones. But his eyes were always on the sky. He checked the radar scanner twice every hour. Mira, on the other hand, had become quiet again. She spent long hours watching the stars, as if waiting for something. Then, one evening, it came. The scanner beeped. A red line flashed across the screen. Rafi stared at it. A ship had entered their sky, large and slow. No ID code, no message. It floated above the hills outside Velen and stayed there without moving. Not a single light came from it. Rafi ran to Mira. She was already standing near the window. "They found me," she said softly. Rafi's voice was low. "Can it be a patrol ship?" "No," Mira replied. "That's a hunter-class carrier. It doesn't speak. It doesn't warn. It waits. Then it attacks." Rafi's heart dropped. He knew the colony had no real weapons. A few guard towers, a few old blasters, and some defense drones. Nothing that could stop a ship like that. "What do we do now?" he asked. Mira turned to him. "We don't wait. We prepare." She walked to the table and placed the command cube down. The glowing lines inside it started moving faster. Rafi watched as Mira pressed her fingers to its surface. A soft hum filled the room. Small lights floated above the cube and formed a map of the sky. The hunter ship appeared as a red shape just above Velen. "They'll send ground units soon," Mira said. "Fast ones. Not human. Built for capture." Rafi asked, "How long do we have?" "Maybe a day." She said, "Maybe less." They told Chief Dalen everything. He called a meeting with the colony guards and workers. Mira stood in the center of the group, calm and serious. Some people looked at her with doubt, some with fear, but no one spoke against her. Rafi stood beside her, silent but strong. "We can't fight that ship," Dalen said, "but we can protect each other." Mira nodded. "I will give you time. I will slow them down." The town began to prepare. Children were sent to the deep storage caves. Families packed food and water. Drones were moved to the edge of the colony. Old shields were taken out and charged. Rafi worked on building traps and alarms. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, a loud sound shook the ground. The hunter ship was dropping pods from the sky. They landed beyond the hills with a deep thud. The sky turned gray. They're here. Mira said she left the workshop without fear. She wore a small device on her ear and held the command cube in her left hand. Her eyes glowed faintly now. She walked toward the outer fence alone. Rafi followed her. "You can't face them alone. I'm not going to destroy them," she said. "I'm going to distract them." She reached a small hill and placed the cube on the ground. It floated in the air and shot thin lights into the sky. Within seconds, the cube created a wall of false signals, drawing attention away from the colony. From the trees, strange shapes began to appear. They looked like metal animals, sharp and fast. Their legs moved like spiders. Their eyes glowed red. One of them spotted Mira and charged forward. Rafi yelled, "Mira, look out!" But Mira didn't move. She raised her hand, and a blast of energy pushed the creature back. It hit a tree and stopped moving. Two more came, and again Mira stood firm. She moved like water, calm and smooth, as if she had done this 100 times. Still, the machines kept coming. Rafi fired at one with an old blaster. It slowed the creature, but didn't stop it. Mira called out, "Stay back." These were made to learn. They will study your attacks. More explosions echoed in the distance. The colony was under attack from the other side. The trap systems had activated, and smoke filled the air. Mira turned to Rafi. "You need to go. Help the others." "I'll hold them here." "No," Rafi said. "We stay together." Mira looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "All right, but keep your distance. Let me take the lead together." They moved through the smoke, pushing back the attackers. Mira used her knowledge to confuse the enemy. She sent false commands to the machines using the cube. Some of the machines began to turn against each other. Sparks flew in every direction. The battle lasted for hours. By sunset, the first wave was over. The machines had pulled back. The hunter ship above had not moved. It watched from the sky like a silent judge. Rafi sat on the ground, his shirt torn, his face covered in dirt. Mira stood beside him, tired but still strong. Her hands shook a little. She had used too much energy, but she had done what she promised. She had given the colony time. Dalen came running with 2 guards. "We lost some power units," he said, "but most of the colony is safe." "You did it," Mira nodded. "This was only the first test. They wanted to see how I respond. Next time, they'll come harder." Rafi looked at her. "Then we'll be ready, because now we fight together." Mass checked. The sky over Velen turned darker the next morning. Black clouds circled above the hunter ship. The colony felt quiet. There was no sound from the trees, no birds in the sky. Even the machines in the workshop made no noise. It was the kind of silence that came before something terrible. Mira stood at the edge of the colony, her eyes fixed on the sky. She looked calm, but inside, she felt the weight of everything. She knew what was coming. The first attack had only been a warning. The real battle was close now. Rafi stood behind her, holding a scanner in one hand. "They are moving again," he said. "The ship is charging something big. Maybe a beam or a drop unit." Mira nodded. "They are ready to end it now. They've studied our defense. They'll try to break it." In one strong wave, she walked back into the colony and gathered everyone in the main square. Chief Dalen stood with the guards. Families waited quietly, some holding hands, others holding tools like weapons. Mira looked at all of them. "I came here to hide. I wanted peace. But now I understand something. You gave me trust when you didn't know who I was. Now I will give you the truth." She held up the command cube. It lit up and floated in the air. "This cube can call defense units from old satellites. It can activate hidden weapons. I never used it before, because once I do, they will know exactly where I am. It will tell their ship to come with full force." Chief Dalen asked, "Will it be enough to stop them?" Mira looked at him. "It will help, but it will not be easy. We still need each other. We must protect this place together." Rafi stepped forward. She's not fighting alone. I'll stand with her one by one. The others nodded. Some were afraid, but no one turned away. The sun began to set. A red light covered the sky. The hunter ship moved again, dropping a large pod near the far wall of the colony. The ground shook. Then silence returned. Suddenly, the wall exploded. From the dust came tall machines, their bodies covered in armor, their arms shaped like weapons. These were not scouts. These were destroyers, machines built for war. Mira ran to the wall, and the cube followed her, floating beside her shoulder. She raised her hand, and the lights around her grew brighter. She sent a wave of energy into the air. The old shields of Velen, hidden under the ground for years, began to rise. Metal walls came up. Blue lights lit across the streets. Drones flew into the sky. The town was alive with defense. The battle had begun. The destroyers opened fire. Bright beams hit the shields. The guards returned fire, using old rifles and pulse blasters. Sparks flew everywhere. Smoke filled the air. Mira moved through the battlefield like a dancer. She pushed energy from her hands, stopping machines in midair. She turned their own shots against them. She gave commands through the cube, calling down small defense bots from above. Rafi fought near the gate with a team of workers. They used strong blasters and tools turned into weapons. One of the machines came close, but Rafi jumped forward and hit its leg with a hammer. It fell, and the others finished it. Still, more destroyers came. Mira saw that they were being pushed back. The machines were learning again. Every move she made, they copied. Every weapon used became less useful the next time. She knew what she had to do. She turned to Rafi. I have to use the core command. It will send a shutdown signal, but it will also hurt me. I was built to carry the cube, but only for a short time. If I use the full signal, I don't know what will happen to me. Rafi shook his head. There must be another way. There is no time, she said. This is the only way to save Velen. Rafi held her hand. Then I'll go with you. Whatever happens, I'll be there. Mira smiled. Thank you. I'm not afraid anymore. They ran to the top of the old tower at the center of the colony. Mira placed the cube on the control plate. Her hands glowed brighter than ever. The lines of energy ran up her arms, through her chest, and into her eyes. The sky above them opened. Lights from the old satellites shone down. The machines below stopped moving. A loud pulse filled the air, shaking the ground. One by one, the destroyers began to fall. Their lights faded. Their bodies froze. The battle ended, but Mira dropped to her knees. Her body shook. The energy inside her was breaking. Rafi caught her before she fell. Mira, stay with me. He Sage looked at him with weak eyes. I did it. They're gone. You did more than that, he said. You saved everyone. She smiled one last time before closing her eyes. The hunter ship above the sky moved back. It was silent, but it knew. Its mission had failed. The signal from the cube had reached it. It had no reason to stay. And then, just like that, it vanished into the stars. Rafi carried Mira back to the workshop. She was breathing, but barely. Her skin was cold. The cube had lost all its light. Chief Dalen came and placed a hand on Rafi's shoulder. She gave us peace. We'll never forget this. That night, the colony lit candles in every home. People prayed, sang songs, and told stories about the girl who came from the sky and chose to protect them. Mira, the one who was made for destruction, had become their shield. And for Rafi, she was much more than that. The battle had ended. The machines were gone. The sky was clear again. But peace came with a heavy price. Inside the workshop, Mira lay still on a bed made of soft cloth and spare blankets. Her face was pale, and her breathing was slow. The command cube had stopped glowing. Its power was gone, and so was the light that once moved through Mira's hands. Rafi sat beside her. He had not left the room since the battle ended. His eyes were tired, but he stayed awake. He cleaned her wounds, changed the bandage on her arm, and made sure she had water. Every hour, he checked her pulse. Every hour, he hoped she would open her eyes. The people of Velen worked together to rebuild the broken parts of the colony. The wall was fixed, the damaged homes were repaired, but no one forgot who had saved them. Every evening, someone brought food or flowers to Rafi's door. They didn't want to disturb him. They only wanted to show thanks. Chief Dalen came by often. He sat quietly beside Rafi and told stories of the past. Sometimes he spoke to Mira, too, even if she didn't respond. "You're one of us now," he would say. "This place is your home." 3 days passed like that. On the 4th day, something changed. It was early morning. The light from the window touched Mira's face. Rafi was asleep in a chair near the bed. Suddenly, he heard a soft sound. It was small, like a breath turning into a word. He opened his eyes and looked at Mira. Her fingers moved. Rafi rushed to her side. "Mira, can you hear me?" Her lips moved. Slowly, "Rafi," she whispered, smiled, holding her hand gently. "You're awake. You're safe. We all are. You did it." She looked around the room, weak but aware. "The colony, what happened? You saved it. You stopped the machines. The ship left. We're all fine now because of you." A tear rolled down Mira's cheek. "I was afraid I would never wake up again. You came back," Rafi said. "That's what matters." Rafi gave her warm soup and helped her sit up. She was still weak, but her mind was clear. Her energy would take time to return, but she was healing. Over the next few days, Mira began walking again. People came to see her, one by one. They brought gifts, small machines, flowers, drawings made by children. Mira was quiet, but she thanked each one. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. One evening, she sat outside the workshop with Rafi. The sun was setting behind the hills. The air was cool, and birds flew across the sky. "Do you think they'll come back?" Rafi escaped. Myra thought for a moment. Maybe. The hunter ship left. But the system I escaped from may still be searching. They don't stop easily. But I broke the signal. I used the full power of the cube. That may confuse them for some time. Rafi nodded. "If they do return, we'll face them again." Together Mira smiled. "You really believe in me, even after everything?" Rafi looked at her with kind eyes. "I saw the truth in you when no one else did. You were scared when you came. You were lost, but you never gave up. That's what makes you strong." Mira took a deep breath. "I remember the place I came from. They trained us to follow orders, not to think, not to feel. But one day, during a mission, I saw a child crying, a small boy with dust on his face. I couldn't do what they told me. That's when I ran." She looked at her hands. "They call me broken, a failed unit. But here, I feel something different. I feel human." "You are," Rafi said. "You're more human than anyone I know." They sat in silence for a while. The stars began to appear above. The same stars Mira once feared now looked peaceful. The next morning, Chief Dalen invited Mira to speak at the town gathering. She stood in the center of the square. Her steps slow but steady. People listened closely as she spoke. "I was created to be a weapon," she said. "But in this place, I found something more powerful than war. I found care, trust, and friendship. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this: I will never forget what you gave me." The crowd clapped, not with noise, but with deep respect. Mira returned to the workshop and started helping again. She fixed drones, repaired lights, and built a small garden near the entrance. It was her way of saying thank you. She even taught Rafi how to build a better energy cell using old parts and smart coding. One night, as they shared tea under the stars, Mira asked, "Why didn't you run when I told you the truth?" Rafi smiled. "Because I saw someone who needed a friend, not someone to fear. I saw hope." Mira looked at him and said, "Then maybe that's what I'll be from now on. Not a destroyer, not a weapon, just hope." Rafi nodded. "That name fits you perfectly." And from that day on, the people of Velen stopped calling her the stranger from the stars. They called her something better. They called her Hope. Months passed in the quiet valley of Velen. The colony had changed, but not only because of the repairs and new machines. Something deeper had changed. The people had become stronger, braver, and all because of Mira, now known as Hope. Hope had made a home in Rafi's workshop. She built a small room beside it. She planted trees and flowers. She helped build a new signal tower that could reach other human colonies. Across the nearby star sectors, Rafi and Hope worked together every day. They didn't talk much about the past anymore. It was behind them. Instead, they focused on what they could build next. One morning, Hope sat on a stone, looking at the sky. A silver bird-shaped drone flew above her. She smiled. It was her design, based on an old Earth drawing she once saw in Rafi's book. Suddenly, she felt a strange signal. It was very soft, like a whisper. But it was not from Velen. She stood up, focusing her senses. Rafi noticed. What's wrong? Hope closed her eyes. There's something out there. A signal. It's not from the machines. It's from someone else. Human. Rafi's eyes widened. You mean other colonies? Hope nodded. It's a distress call. Faint, but real. From a place called Norate. Rafi didn't hesitate. We should help. Hope looked at him. You're sure? This could be dangerous. You helped us. Now it's our turn, he said. Chief Dillon gathered a small team. They fixed the old space transport near the hills. Hope and Rafi added strong shields and better engines. Within 5 days, the ship was ready. They named it the Second Chance Dock before leaving. Hope stood before the people of Velen. I came here broken, she said, but you helped me become something more. Now someone else needs help. I will return. Until then, keep building, keep believing. The ship took off into the bright sky. Hope and Rafi sat in the cockpit. The stars ahead seemed endless, but they were not afraid. As they traveled through space, Rafi asked, Do you think Norate is in danger from the same machines? Hope nodded slowly. Maybe. If the machines found them, they might be in worse shape than we were. They reached the edge of Norate's system. The planet below looked silent. There were signs of battle-burnt fields, broken towers, dark clouds. But something moved. A small light blinked near the ruins. A signal. Hope connected her system to the source. There's someone alive. A group of survivors in the southern valley. They landed carefully. Dust blew round them as the ship touched down. Hope and Rafi stepped out, wearing simple armor and holding scanners. As they walked, they heard a soft voice. Stop! Who are you? A young boy stepped out from behind a rock, holding a weak plasma stick. Behind him were others, tired, scared, and hungry. Rafi lowered his gear and stepped forward. We're friends. We came from Velen. We heard your signal. The boy lowered his stick. We thought no one would come. Hope knelt beside him. You're safe now. The survivors had been hiding for months. The machines had attacked suddenly, destroyed their cities, and blocked all signals. Only this boy, named Toma, had figured out how to send a broken message into space. Hope repaired their water systems and used a small energy core to bring back light. Rafi helped set up defense towers using what was left of the colony's metal. Hope stood near a broken tower and whispered, We can rebuild. Rafi smiled. Like we did before. For weeks, they helped the people of Norate. Soon, the machines returned. A scout drone flew over the valley. But this time, Hope was ready. She used her own signal, a mix of the old control code and her human thoughts. It confused the drone. It flew in circles, then fell to the ground. This is just the beginning, Hope said. But she wasn't alone. The people of Norate stood behind her. So did Rafi, and soon others would come. The signal from Velen had reached more colonies. Help was coming. Hope looked up at the stars once more. She was not running anymore. She was not hiding. She was building a path, one where no one would be left behind again. One evening, Toma asked her, Why do you help us? She smiled. Because someone helped me once, and now I want to do the same. Rafi stood beside her, holding a small flag made by Nora's children. It had a simple symbol on it, half machine, half heart. That's you, Rafi said. You're the bridge. Hope nodded. And I'll keep walking it. From that day forward, stories spread through the stars. Not of fear, but of a woman who had once said, If you knew who I was, you would have run. But the truth was different. They didn't run. They followed her.